We begin in Kisumu, where the body of the late Fidel Odinga arrived at Kisumu International Airport at about 12:15. Leaders of the Orange Democratic Movement were joined by hundreds of mourners as they prepared to receive the body. The casket has since been moved to Jomo Kenyatta Sports Ground, where the public will be allowed to view the body. And we're now joined live by Victor Ogale, who is currently at the Jomo Kenyatta Sports Ground, to give us an update of the very latest. Victor, I'm just seeing a few speeches at the moment. Can you just bring us up to speed?
Well, thank you very much, my colleague Edith Kimani. Indeed, I'm coming to you live from Kisumu City, at the heart of Kisumu City, at the Jomo Kenyatta grounds, where the public viewing of Fidel Castro Macarius Odinga is going on. And the person who's on the podium now giving a speech is the chairman of Orange Democratic Party, John Mbadi, and just like all those speakers who spoke before him, he is giving praise to the late Fidel. He's giving praise to the late Fidel Odinga. We have a couple of the who is who in ODM, the ODM bigwigs, such as Senator James Orengo, nominated MP Oburu Odinga, also Raila Odinga, the late Fidel's father is here, Ida Odinga is here, Fidel's wife, and the entire family, siblings, Raila Junior Odinga is here, and also Winnie Odinga is here. And on my left, the stadium is full. The Jomo Kenyatta grounds is full, and I can count close to over 5,000 mourners who have come here, and they started coming here as early as 7 a.m. And soon after the body landed here at 9 a.m. at the Kisumu International Airport, the procession headed straight here to the Jomo Kenyatta grounds, and through towns, through the town, with the youths escorting the procession and the motorcade waving twigs and flags in unity. Now on stage is Raila Odinga. That's why you can hear the cheers and the shouts and the music. Court leader Raila Odinga has been called on to the stage together with his wife, Mama Ida Odinga, and the brother Oburu Odinga also on stage. And indeed, all the speakers who are here, all the speakers who spoke, including Senator James Orengo, John Mbadi, former Westlands Member of Parliament, Fred Gumo, all of them spoke positive of Fidel Odinga. All of them were in praise of the late Fidel. On the podium also, I can see Jack Ranguma, Member of Parliament, Shakil Shabir. Initially, there were plans that they've
Makorodugo chunya awachine kabuono kalosi Tabro loso kina los king.
Well, that is called leader Raila Odinga, who's speaking in his native language, the Luo. He is urging the crowds to become and to wait for the autopsy results. And earlier on, James Orengo, Siaya Senator, announced that the tissues of the late Fidel Odinga will be flown to Berlin, Germany for more tests so as to determine the cause of his death. And earlier on, there were plans for the viewing of the late Fidel's body, but that did not take place as scheduled, as mourners had thronged the Jomo Kenyatta grounds, and they have stretched all the way next to the VIP dais that it is impassable, no one can pass through. So the body is still inside the hearse, and mourners can just peep through the window of the hearse. And Court leader Raila Odinga has called on the residents of Kisumu to promote peace. And I'll take you, for me, Victor Ogale here at the Jomo Kenyatta ground in Kisumu. I'll take you back to our Mombasa Road studios, where Edith Kimani is on standby.
Well, thank you very much, Victor Ogale. As you can see, he's trying to just keep his ear on the ground and make sure he doesn't miss anything. But from what he's told us, glowing tributes being paid to the late Fidel Odinga already. A very thick crowd at the Jomo Kenyatta Sports Ground, where the body is currently being held as they await to take it to the burial site. And we'll definitely be keeping tabs for that story for you, and we'll bring you more details in our subsequent bulletins. Elsewhere, tension is still high along the Kisii-Transmara border for the 6th day now, after a trader was allegedly shot by police who were dispersing a group of armed Maasai and Kisii men engaging in a fight along the border. Several people have fled their homes following the retaliatory attacks, with families left distraught. Traders have also not been spared, with sugar cane farmers counting losses after their farms were torched. The two communities vowed to continue with the fight until their cattle, which was allegedly stolen, is recovered. The incident occurring at the border of Kiango and Shangoi, where the two warring sides orchestrated revenge attacks, prompting the police to respond fiercely, killing the trader who was allegedly fleeing the volatile area. Now, those around the border are still armed with crude weapons, while transport has been paralyzed in that area. 4 people have sustained minor injuries after a British Army helicopter made an emergency landing after developing mechanical problems. Now, the soldiers were on a routine exercise in Mount Kenya Forest when the accident occurred. The British Army and G4S officers have sealed off the area, and the pictures you're seeing on your screens right now are from this scene earlier on, so why don't you have a look? Home, there is tension in Mombasa's Majengo area following the killing of a 24-year-old man. According to residents, Ibrahim Musa was stabbed to death during a skirmish when two feuding sides disagreed over an undisclosed matter. Now, law enforcers had a difficult time trying to calm the agitated youth who were baying for the blood of the suspects. KTN's Francis Ontomo with the latest from Mombasa.
Friday morning, Majengo area in Mombasa. A group of youths engage in fiery exchanges. During the altercations, daggers are drawn, and in the aftermath, one Ibrahim Musa is left dead. Chaos soon erupted after the killing. Officers from the General Service Unit and the Rapid Response Unit of the Administration Police quickly rushed to the scene. Isha Abdurrahman, a prime suspect, is nabbed in connection with the killing. As police officers continue conducting swoops, this man suspected to be an accomplice is nabbed. He is at pains to clear his name from the murder list.
Hakuna wenzake ambao nawajua, lakini usiku wa jana mimi sikuwa huko, sikuwa hapo, na mimi niko kazini.
Relatives of the arrested suspect have raised concerns over the state of mind of Abdurrahman, and they want him examined.
Hiyo wanavyo-claim kwamba ameua, mimi sijaona. Sasa lakini amekuja na madamu na mashahidi wako ni sawa, lakini kwanza tuomba wampime akili. Hakuna binadamu anaweza kufanya hivi.
The late Ibrahim Musa has been described by relatives as calm and peace-loving, and a somber mood had begun engulfing their Majengo home. This latest killing has left residents in utter shock. They hope police investigations will this time round help unmask the killers and bring justice to the bereaved. Francis Otomwa, KTN, Mombasa.
Teachers who have been on strike since the 5th of January will not be paid. And this is according to the Cabinet Secretary of Education, Professor Jacob Kaimenyi, who says that the government has been sympathetic to the plight of teachers and the strike in spite of the court order against it, saying that the continued strike is actually in bad taste. Kaimenyi was speaking to KTN's Catherine Omwanto in an exclusive interview. Watch.
Where people have broken the law, except last year, you are meaning break out. We are saying they are not exempt. If there's a contempt of court, utaenda jail. Civil jail, utaenda tu. The other thing we want to emphasize really, to cure this problem, because we must cure it as a nation. We're saying that the Labor Relations Act is very clear. No work, no pay. If you engage in an illegal strike, for whatever period, why should you be paid? We will be very firm on that one. It's not a threat. It is what a good nation must do and must be done all the time, so that the teachers know, because they are very educated people. They must respect the law. When you fail to respect the law, you know, of course, the consequences. Our CBAs, in Israel, is like every other year. Best practices in the world, they are negotiated for every 4 years. That's the direction we want to take. It's a good policy, so that again you can have relative industrial peace.
A very good afternoon and welcome to KTN's Business Chat. My name is Abi Agina, and with me in studio you have Patrick Obath, an oil and gas extractives expert as well as a director at Kenyan Private Sector Alliance. Welcome.
Thank you.
Let's just get straight into the point. 2015 promises quite a lot. From the private sector, where you see it, what are your prospects for this year?
As a private sector, 2015 we can take a very bullish view on the year. Based on a couple of issues. One, the last 18 months or so from the elections and the fact that the Jubilee government has been settling in, and the whole issue of the devolved government trying to get in, have been without action. But what you've seen towards the end of last year was, one, the standard gauge railway contract that was started up. They also got together the act of all the roads, which is now being done on an annuity basis.
Yeah.
So infrastructure-wise, there's going to be a lot of activity actually hitting the ground in 2015.
Well, a lot of groundwork, as you've mentioned, and as the private sector, what does this portend for you guys?
I think a lot. First of all, there is a requirement in the standard gauge railway that 40% of the procurement is done locally. And we have a consortium that was formed, in fact, in 2009, which has been working towards securing a certain portion of that activity for the private sector in Kenya. So the cement companies are already engaged, so all the cement is going to be procured locally. Most of the labor is going to be procured locally. A lot of the raw materials are going to be procured locally. The only items that are going to be procured internationally are basically stuff that you can't make. The special steels for the railway and the rolling stock. But the rest is actually going to be done locally, which is, I think, a positive sign for us in that area. And also on the roads project, most of the contracts, about 38%, 39%, are going to be local as well. So that means that for us, a lot of our members are going to be active in the course of this year. And that will generate jobs and trickle down into the economy.
Do you feel that the private sector has the capacity to match? Because this number of projects you've talked about demand quite a lot.
The private sector should be viewed as a potential for getting Kenyans engaged. So a lot of the work will be done by direct Kenyan companies, but it also gives the opportunities for Kenyans to work with other people who are international to allow us to bring in skills and bring in capital into the country for us to be able to participate in those areas. And that means that the private sector will grow stronger, and as the volume grows, the percentage that is done by Kenyans will also grow. That is going to start in 2015.
And in terms of the oil and gas industry, a lot of activity also happening on that front. From where you sit, what should we expect moving forward?
I think you'll see a slight lull in 2015. The biggest issue that we have is that the international prices of oil has gone down, and therefore the sort of the money available for exploration activities might be curtailed a little bit. So for those who have reached a point whereby they've actually struck oil, you'll find money coming in because they need to monetize fairly quickly. But the people who are going to be doing exploration still and doing seismic and trying to do aerial surveys and everything, you'll find there'll be a slight slowdown in those areas. There will be a lot of negotiation between the government and the oil exploration companies for them to delay some of the work because the capital that they would have had available is not going to be there. But I think the impact on Kenya is not going to be as big as it could be in other parts of the country, of the world, primarily because Kenya is a very exciting frontier, and people will still put money into this country. So if anything, we'll see a slowdown of maybe about 5 to 10%, not more.
Very interesting insights there, Patrick Obath. That's all the time we had. And now I hand you back to Edith for more news.
Well, thank you, Abby. And we look at an interesting story of human-wildlife conflict where residents of Nyeri County living next to the Aberdare forest have had to live with the wrath of wild animals who prey on livestock. Under the cover of darkness, hyenas, leopards and other animals attack the cows, goats and sheep, leaving the residents at a loss of what action to take. An elderly man, in fact, was recently killed by a buffalo that had escaped from the Aberdare forest. Those residents are now appealing to officials from the Kenya Wildlife Service to take their plight into consideration and award them some plausible compensation, as well as stop the wild animals from attacking homesteads. Well, KWS, however, says the residents are to blame for breaking the fence, and Karen Derry has that story for us.
8 of them share 2 rooms.
While living near a forest definitely has its perks, such as an endless supply of fresh air and, of course, the beautiful scenery, residents of Ihururu in Tetu now say their proximity to the bountiful Aberdare forest, one of Kenya's 5 water towers, has come with its fair share of challenges. In Nyarugumo village, hyenas and other wildlife from the Aberdare have ensured that the villagers know no peace. So far, they have lost over 30 cows and goats. Some are nursing grievous wounds brought on by bites from the menacing wild animals.
Saa 9 kasorobo ya usiku nisikia ng'ombe yangu amelalama sana, nikatoka nje, kutoka nikakuta fisi amemuuma pande ya mgongo.
Residents claim that just 5 months ago a man was attacked and killed by buffaloes that had escaped from the forest.
A section of the fence had been cut away by some of this one of the community members, and then if it goes out, a buffalo is very dangerous to anybody that comes across.
Morethi, however, apportioned the blame to the residents, claiming that they had brought this on themselves by cutting off part of the fence and using the wires on their tomato crop, while others let their cattle across the forest fence for pasture.
Use the wires in their farms with the tomatoes and other crops that are climbers.
And while the blame game continues back and forth between the residents and the KWS officials, the elephant in the room is the issue of compensation. Will it be forthcoming?
They have to be compensated. Lakini, unajua, they are bringing the problem for themselves. Because if they don't cut the wire, then the animals will not go out.
Tumepoteza buzi zaidi ya 20, ng'ombe zaidi ya 10. Na ng'ombe hizi ni za maziwa.
A compensation committee has to verify if each case is deserved, taking into account the degree of injury or loss and which wild animal.
It is usually estimated by the Ministry of Livestock. And so ours is to go and verify that, okay, a goat has been killed by which animal.
One roll of wire costs about 100,000 shillings, and the deputy park warden says the reconstruction exercise is proven to be too costly for KWS. In another part of the forest, it is alleged that the residents cut off 2 kilometers of the forest fence, and elephants are now having a field day feasting on the harvest in the farms. Karen Derry, KTN, Tetu.
It's now time to wind up this edition of KTN Newsdesk. It's time for our Did You Know fact. I'll give you 2. They're both so incredibly weird, and I'm sorry for that. Did you know that when male and female anglerfish mate, they melt into each other and share bodies forever? So the deep sea is so vast that if a male finds a female, he latches onto her, fuses into her, losing his eyes and internal organs until the 2 fish share a bloodstream. I did tell you it was weird. Did you also know that babies may practice crying in the womb? Researchers say that they have videos of 3rd trimester fetuses that appear to be silently crying in response to being startled by noises on the mother's abdomen. So Mashirima Kapombe, this is to you. Do not scare your baby. He will cry. Well, that's where we wind up this edition of KTN's News Desk. Good afternoon. I'm Edith Kimani. Have a lovely day ahead.